I thought I knew which one of these French Avenue fragrances was number one. I was wrong. Liquid Burn Limited Edition, Azzure Aoud, and Cocoa Morado. I've worn all four. I've compared them side by side, and today I'm ranking them. But I'm not revealing a single position until the end because one of these finished nowhere near what I expected. And another one completely changed my mind the more I wore it. So while we go through these, I want you to build your own ranking. Then at the end, we'll see if yours matches mine. Let's get into it.
Welcome to the world of Mr. Couts. He is the ultimate fragrance guy. Get ready to experience true luxury. Remember to hit that subscribe button.
Here's what made this ranking even harder than what I expected. These aren't four fragrances trying to do the same thing. They're four completely different personalities. Liquid Burn is the popular one. It's sweet, heavy, vanilla, easy to use, easy to like. Everybody loves it. It already has a reputation. But then you have Liquid Burn Limited Edition that walks into the room like everything he can do, I can do better. And then there's Azzure Aoud. And Azzure Aoud doesn't care if everybody likes it. You have passion fruit inside, oud, leather, darkness. This fragrance wants a reaction. And then there's Cocoa Morado, probably the darkest personality on this table. The spices, dates, oud, incense, and leather. This one feels like it's standing in the corner of a room watching everybody else fight. So I'm judging these on more than just which one smells good. I'm looking at scent, performance, quality, versatility, value, and most importantly, which one do I actually enjoy wearing the most? Because I can tell you which fragrance is the safest. I can tell you which one is the most polished. I can tell you which one checks the most boxes. But if there's another bottle sitting here that I simply enjoy more, that has to matter. And we're starting with the biggest wild card on the table, Cocoa Morado. Now, this might be the fragrance that requires the most patience. Right from the opening, you get this big wave of warm spices, cinnamon, saffron, cardamom, and then this dark sweetness starts coming from the dates. And underneath all of that, you got oud, incense, leather, and these dark resinous notes pulling everything deeper. To my nose, this fragrance doesn't smell playful. It doesn't smell young. This smells intentional. Cold weather, nighttime, dark clothes, maybe somewhere you're dressed up a little bit. Cocoa Morado gives me the image of sitting in a dimly lit lounge, dark woods, low light, an expensive drink in your hand. That's the energy. And there's something about this fragrance that none of the other three have, mystery. But there's also a big problem with this. I have to be in the mood to want to wear Cocoa Morado. This isn't just one of the fragrances I can just blindly grab. When you're ranking fragrances overall, that matters. If we're ranking these only by uniqueness, this one might surprise you. On my skin, I'm getting 9+ hours of longevity with approximately 3 to 4 hours of strong projection. If you love dark spice resinous oud fragrances, you might already have Cocoa Morado pretty high on your list. Keep that ranking in your head because the next fragrance is almost the complete opposite. That's going to be Liquid Burn. This is probably the fragrance that most people are already watching for, and I understand why, because it gets so much attention. You get that warm cinnamon, cardamom up top, then then you get bourbon vanilla, praline that starts taking over, and that's where Liquid Burn really becomes Liquid Burn. Warm, sweet, creamy, spicy, addictive. This is probably one of the easiest fragrances on this entire table to smell and immediately say, yeah, I like that. This DNA just works. Cold weather, absolutely. Date night, easy. Casual night out, easy. You want something sweet, attention grabbing without getting too complicated. Liquid Burn gets the job done. And the performance, performance and another reason why it's became so popular. On my skin, I'm getting 8+ hours, and longevity is 1 to 2 hours, maybe strong projection. So this fragrance is just not performing just off the smell, projection, performance, all of that. It does great. And this is one of the easiest fragrances on this list. And Liquid Burn has another problem. One of the other bottles sitting on this table has the same name, which means eventually I have to ask an uncomfortable question. Did French Avenue actually improve liquid burn, or did they take something people already love, mess with, and charge more money? We'll get to that later. But first, there's another fragrance that completely changed where I thought it would land. When I first smelled it, I wasn't convinced. Matter of fact, if I had made this list ranking my first wear, this bottle probably wouldn't even be on this list. It's probably below the list. That's something that I just couldn't get with. But as time grew, I grew to love it. But judging fragrances basically on the opening is a big mistake, because once this actually dries down, it changes. And suddenly the fragrance that might struggle against liquid burn starts making a strong case for itself. Azzure Aoud. Azzure Aoud. This fragrance starts with attitude. You get this juicy passion, sweetness right away. But underneath that fruit, you've got oud, leather, dark wood, amber, and eventually some vanilla starts smoothing everything out. So this fragrance starts bright and juicy, and then somebody slowly turns the lights off. That's the easiest way I can describe it. You got tropical fruit sitting against dark wood and leather. And that contrast is what makes Azzure Aoud so interesting. Liquid burn is easier to like. I'll give liquid burn that all day, but Azzure Aoud is hard to forget. The character here, you walk in the room wearing liquid burn, somebody might say, man, you smell good. You walk in the room wearing Azzure Aoud, somebody might say, what in the world are you wearing? There's a difference, but here's the warning. If you don't like oud, if you don't like leather, or if tropical fruit sitting on top of dark wood sounds strange to you, please do not blind buy this just because somebody told you it's a beast, because this fragrance can divide the room. But on my skin, once that opening settled down and that vanilla starts smoothing everything out and it's smoothing out the rough edge, this becomes sexy, dark, exotic, masculine, different. And what I really like about Azzure Aoud is the journey. I don't want this first 5 minutes of the fragrance to tell me exactly what I'm going to smell for the next 8 hours. I want development. I want movement. I want the fragrance to change. And Azzure Aoud does that. And this is one of the fragrances I kept finding myself going back to. I'd smell it once, and then later I catch myself smelling my arm again. And that matters, because sometimes a fragrance doesn't have to be the safest. It doesn't have to be the most versatile. Sometimes it just has to keep your attention. On my skin, I'm getting 9+ hours of longevity, 3 hours of strong projection. And this one of the fragrances where I'd rather you underspray than overspray, because this can get loud really quick. And at this point, I thought I had a pretty good idea where Azzure Aoud was going to land. Then I wore the last fragrance again, Liquid Burn Limited Edition. Now this is where French Avenue took a risk, because Liquid Burn already worked. Nobody was sitting around saying, somebody please save Liquid Burn. People already love the original. So when you release something called Liquid Burn Limited Edition, you're making a statement. You're basically telling me we took something you already liked and made it better. Prove it. Because changing something doesn't automatically mean improving it. So when I first smelled these two side by side, I wasn't convinced that limited edition had a reason to exist. Then it started developing, and that's when the story changed. Instead of that big cinnamon sweetness leading the way, you get citrus, lavender, and cardamom. Immediately, it feels more aromatic, cleaner, more mature. Then as it develops, you get wood, florals, and eventually that warm vanilla, tonka, and amber. And that's when the relationship to the original starts showing itself. You still have warmth. You still have sweetness. You still have that addictive vanilla backbone. But Liquid Burn feels like Liquid Burn grew up. The original wants you to notice how good it smells. The limited edition, it already knows it smells good. The original smells sweeter, limited edition smells smoother. The original smells more gourmand, and limited edition feels more redefined. The original is the party. The limited edition is the dinner before the party at the restaurant where you needed reservations 3 weeks ago. There's another reason this one impressed me. French Avenue actually gave me a reason to own both, because if limited editions smell almost exactly like the original, why am I buying another bottle? But these are different enough that I can see myself reaching for them in a different situation. If we're judging these only on refinement, polish, and overall balance, this fragrance would be very hard to beat. On my skin, I'm getting approximately 10 hours of longevity, around 2 to 3 hours of noticeable projection. And because this is an extrait, I expect it to perform. But performance alone isn't deciding this ranking. Now, before I reveal the order, every fragrance on this table has a weakness. Cocoa Morado, probably the hardest to wear casually. You have to want that darkness. Liquid Burn, probably the safest, but safe can also mean less interesting when you put it beside fragrances with bigger personality. Azzure Aoud, probably the most polarizing. When it works, it really works. But there are situations where this thing could simply be too much. And Liquid Burn Limited Edition, honestly, this might be the most complete fragrance sitting here. It's smooth, it's refined, it's versatile, it's polished. But here's the question I had to ask myself. Am I ranking the fragrances that check the most boxes, or am I ranking the fragrances I personally enjoy wearing the most? Because those two answers are not necessarily the same. That's what made this ranking difficult. But this isn't your ranking, it's mine. So enough talking, let's rank them. 4 fragrances, 1 winner, starting at the bottom. Coming in at number 4, it's gonna be Cocoa Morado. And before somebody starts typing, relax. This fragrance is not bad. Matter of fact, it might be the most unique fragrance in the group. But when I add versatility, how often I actually am going to wear it, and overall enjoyment, something had to finish here. If you love dark, spicy, resinous fragrances, your ranking could look completely different. But for me, Cocoa Morado finished at number 4. Now, this is where some people are going to get mad. My third, Liquid Burn. I know. This is a crowd favorite. It's sweet. It smells good. It's easy to wear. The value is great. There's absolutely nothing wrong with Liquid Burn. The problem, the 2 fragrances I have left gave me something I personally found more interesting. Liquid Burn is the safe choice, but safe didn't win the ranking. Now, we're down to the last 2, and this is where I had to stop and think about which fragrance looked best on paper and ask myself which one I wanted to wear. My number 2 is Liquid Burn Limited Edition. And listen, this was close. If I was ranking these strictly on polish, versatility, and how complete the fragrance feels, limited edition might be number 1. It's smoother than the original, it's more mature, it's more aromatic, it's more refined. It feels like French Avenue took Liquid Burn, cleaned up the edges, and gave it a grown man confidence. So why isn't it number 1? Because when I stopped thinking like a reviewer and trusted my nose and my gut, there was one fragrance I like more that leaves 1 bottle. My number 1, Azzure Aoud. No, it's not the safest fragrance here. It's not the easiest fragrance here. It's definitely not the most versatile. But every time I wore these 4, this is the fragrance I kept thinking about. The passion fruit against the oud, the leather, the dark wood, then the vanilla coming in and smoothing everything out. It gives me something none of the other fragrances on this table give me: personality, movement, attitude, and most importantly, I genuinely enjoy wearing it more. Liquid Burn Limited Edition might be the most complete fragrance on the table, while Azzure Aoud is the fragrance I can't stop thinking about. And at the end of the day, I'm not ranking what I think I'm supposed to like. I'm ranking with my nose and what my nose tells me I like. And my nose keeps telling me Azzure Aoud. So for me, Azzure Aoud takes the crown. But don't watch this and think Azzure Aoud won so that the only other fragrance worth buying. That's not what I'm saying. If you want dark, mysterious Cocoa Morado, if you want something sweet, vanilla heavy, easy to wear, Liquid Burn, if you want something smooth, refined, mature, and probably the most complete overall package, Liquid Burn Limited Edition. But if you want exotic, fruity, dark oud with attitude, the fragrance that I personally enjoy the most is Azzure Aoud. Ranking tells you what I prefer. They don't tell you what your nose is supposed to like. So here's how I spend my money. If you never smelled and want to be safe, try buying Liquid Burn. If you want something that's polished, more refined fragrance, buy Liquid Burn Limited Edition. And even though it's my number one, I'm still telling most people to sample it first because that passion fruit, oud, and leather combination isn't going to work for everybody. But if you smell it and your nose reacts the way mine did, you might understand exactly why I put this at number one. Now, also I would say recommend sampling first Cocoa Morado. That dark, spicy resinous needs to hit your nose first. If you don't like rich, dark fragrances, I wouldn't say go ahead and jump on and buy it. Now let's put some numbers behind these. Now Cocoa Morado, I'm giving a 6 out of 10. Liquid Burn an 8 out of 10. Liquid Burn Limited Edition 8.5 out of 10. And Azzure Aoud a 9 out of 10. But now I want to know your ranking. And don't just tell me your number one. Give me all four. 4 through 1. And if you think I completely disrespected one of these bottles, tell me which one. Hit that like button if this video helped you. Subscribe if you're new. And I'm Mr. Couts, the Fragrance Guy, helping you smell good without wasting your money.